What's up, physios? Dr. Cooper here, and today I'm going to cover the 5 steps to turn a crying patient into a big fan without feeling like a Shrek, so stay tuned. Everybody who is a clinician, a trainer, therapist, a chiro, at some point in time has a patient come in and have a complete, absolute breakdown. Just one of these, just crying, flipping. You just think the person's a little bit crazy, but really they're probably just having a tough time with whatever they're dealing with. We all know that pain tends to really screw with your brain because of the connections into the limbic system. And everybody's life these days, of course, is just on complete edge. So what happens when you're working with a patient or a client and they start to have a breakdown, a freak out? This happened to one of my trainers recently. We had a patient come in and she's on antidepressives, anti-anxiety, she's got fibromyalgia, and she just has chronic unrelenting pain. And she came in as just not a good day for her for whatever reason. And the clinician asked her to go back and start her exercises. Well, she seemed okay at that point in time, but within a minute or two, she just went off the deep end. And I ended up having to, the patient essentially freaked out and stormed out of the clinic, and I actually had to call the patient in the car. It was a Saturday, so I was out on a walk or something. I don't even remember. And I called the patient while they were in their car, and I had to talk them down off of the fence. And I had to essentially do that in such a way that turned her from somebody that sort of saw us as a dangerous place, a place that's not safe, into a raving fan. And that's exactly what I did. So I'm going to share with you guys the 5 steps that I basically use when I have a patient that really needs some TLC and to be taken down off the fence and told everything's going to be okay. So here's how it goes. Step number 1 is you want to explain your role. Okay, that's number 1. So I would say something like this. All right, I'm here to help, and I'll do my best to work through this problem with you. Right? It's not like I'm going to solve this for you. I'm going to work through it with you. Like I'm partnering with you to do this. And it's really important in the beginning that you say, I'm here to help. Because in the beginning, the patient or client, really honestly, they've been to a lot of people before you, oftentimes these patients, and they get a little bit apprehensive about clinicians and doctors and therapists. So I'm here to help. And I'm going to work through this problem with you, and we can do this together. All right, and I'll often typically finish that with saying something like, is that okay? Getting permission to do that, right? So explain your role and get permission. The second thing I do is I ask for their side, right? So I want to hear their side of the story. So I may say something like, before I'm able to help you, can you tell me more about what's going on? I want to hear their side of the story. I want to hear what they're experiencing, what they're feeling, and what led to them being in that state, right? So before I start giving them advice, and that's really important, I see this mistake made a lot, don't give any advice. First say, tell me everything about your side of the story, because once that person gives you that dump, you can then sort of move forward. And you got to put your listening ears on, because you're going to try to catch on to key things and really get into the feeling that they're feeling. All the events that are happening in their lives are mostly irrelevant. So step number 3 is reflect the feeling. So I might say something like, wow, I mean, it sounds like you're feeling pretty disappointed. You wanted this whole process to work faster, and you're getting better at a rate that is slower than you thought you were going to get better at. Or I might say something like, okay, so it sounds like you're feeling really, really frustrated by this whole experience. I completely understand. Frustrated, that's the feeling. I don't want to say something like, so, well, did you go see this person or did you do this? Like, that's trying to solve the problem. Don't do that. Trust me, you can't solve the problem. Number 4 is you want to relieve social anxiety. So a lot of people who have these kind of breakdown moments, one of the biggest fears that they have is that people have told them in the past that they're crazy, right? So you want to relieve the social anxiety that they're not actually crazy, that they're just going through a tough time. So the way that I do that is with a story. So I'll typically say something like, okay, well, let me tell you about Lisa, because Lisa was going through exactly what you're going through. She saw this doctor, this doctor, this doctor, and nobody could figure out what was wrong with her. And then she came to me, and it took about 3 to 6 months for us to get her better, but she eventually got better. And she had to be really patient along the way. So it's very common to feel the feelings that you're feeling right now, right? So I told a story about Lisa, who was in a similar situation to the person that's in front of me, right? And when you do that and then give them the outcome, first of all, it makes them feel like, okay, they're not the only person who's in this boat. And also, oh, somebody else who had a similar situation actually did pretty well. And the last thing that you want to do is once you tell that story, you're going to see that sort of sense of calm come over the person, right? And then that's your chance to take the authoritative role, and I will actually tell the patient what to do. Now, this is where we differ from a shrink, right? A shrink is just going to keep going deeper and deeper into the past. I'm not interested. I'm not a shrink. That's not what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to give the person instructions about what the next step is for them to move forward, right? So I might say something like, okay, here's what I want you to do. We won't do any therapy today. I want you to go home and I want you to write down 3 goals that you want to get over the next couple of weeks working with me. And then we'll develop a strategy together towards reaching those goals. How does that sound to you? Right? So those were instructions. Those were direct things, action items for this person to do. Or I might say something like, okay, just take the rest of the day off. And when you come in next time, we'll check back in and we'll really revisit everything that we're doing to make sure that the plan is right for you. Is that okay? Again, asking permission at the end. Always asking permission. Is that okay with you? Is that all right with you? Right? So let's go over all 5 steps, right? So step number 1, explain your role, right? Tell them that you're here to help. Step number 2, ask for their side. Ask for their side of the story. Ask them, how is it going for them? Tell me more about what's going on. Step number 3 is reflect the feeling. Don't reflect the story. Reflect the feeling or the experience that they're going through as an emotion, right? Number 4, relieve social anxiety. Do that by telling them a story about someone else who's gone through a similar problem. And that essentially makes them feel like, okay, this is all right. And then step number 5 is provide instructions. Give them action items. Give them something to do.